Hello, everyone. George DeSantis here. Happy 4th of July. Um, it's going to be a quiet one for most people because of this pandemic, but enjoy the day, the weekend anyway. Um, this is the look at the market for the week ending Friday, July 3rd, 2020, although Friday was a holiday. Um, but before we begin, we usually bring up a disclaimer, and let's do that. And ask you to take a look at it, realize that this is for educational purposes only. It is mostly for my own benefit, review the market, get my head together for the coming week, etc. And it's a video, anyone can look at it, but it is not intended to give personal investment advice to anyone. So with that in mind, let's turn to the charts. Well, here's a weekly chart of the S&P 500. We usually start with the weekly chart, then we go to the daily chart, and I explain the reasons why in the past. So let's go. Last weekend, I pointed out that I could make a case. That's the way I put it. I could make a case for these two candlesticks here, forming a candlestick pattern referred to as a bullish harami. Sometimes they refer to it as a pregnant woman. The body of this candle was totally engulfed by this candle. And I've even said with the arrow, I said that means that given we had an uptrend before that, it is a continuation pattern and therefore we should expect higher prices. Well, folks, that's what we got. We got the S&P up 120 points last week. Not bad. Uh, Now, before I forget, I calculated a target of 33.75 for the S&P based on the triangle that I calculated on the daily chart. We'll see that when we get to it. But before I forget, this is the target, 33.75. Again, a target is a target. Sometimes you miss it, and sometimes you hope most of the time you hit it. Um, but that's something to keep an eye on. But let's look now at the moving averages. We have the 4 exponential moving average above the 9, the red line. Let me blow it up a little bit. You can see the 4 exponential moving average above the 9 exponential moving average. You can see the 30 weighted moving averages here. So these two are above the 30 weighted moving average. And while we're here, let's note that since the parabolic went below the bars back here on April 9th, parabolic has remained below the bars all the way since, and it's still below the most recent bar. So the parabolic indicator, parabolic stop and reverse, is telling us don't even think of a reversal of this trend right now, um, because in that case, the parabolic would be above the most recent bar. So these are the indications that we have on a weekly chart. And if we go down to the MACD histogram, we'll see that MACD is above the zero line. As my friend Alex would put it, bulls are in charge. Bulls are in charge. And MACD actually ticked up last week because of this movement here, 120 points or 4%. Um, and looking at the Williams percentile, you could see that since it crossed here, at the same time that the parabolic went bullish, right, changed to an uptrend, Williams also switched to an uptrend here above the minus 50 line, magenta line, and it's remained there. And recently, the sum of the rate of change indicator is confirming that bullishness, being above the 4% line. Here's a daily chart of the S&P, and on this chart you could see that I plotted, although it's a little confusing with all these lines, but I hope you could read it, try and make it as clear as possible to you. The retracement on the Fibonacci retracement from this low here, with this low was on May 14. From this low to this high, the Fibonacci retracements are plotted, and you can see that this was the 50% retracement level. We found support here at the 50% retracement level. I was talking last week about finding support at the 50% retracement level. We did, and you can see that this is what we did last week for the 4 days of trading last week. So if we look at the moving averages, you can see that the 4 is now crossed above the 9, and the 9 appears to be approaching the 30, wanting to almost cross above the 30 right here. You can see that they're clustering above together with each other. Parabolic switched to an uptrend. You see it switched here. I guess the second Tuesday last week, and it's now telling us we have an uptrend on the daily chart. When we go down to MACD, we see that MACD is trending up from below the 0 line. That means the momentum has switched to an uptrend. Look at Williams percentile. It's now above the magenta line, and we're getting confirmation from the sum of the rate of change indicator because it just switched to above the 4% line. And I almost forgot to point out that we had an A, B, C, D triangle, as I mentioned last week, and suggested that it's a continuation pattern after an uptrend, most likely. And that is exactly what we got. And now we have price breaking out from the triangle, and we have a target at 33.75. Folks, I don't know about you, but that sounds sweet to me. It's sweet. And here's a quick look at the NASDAQ. It's the weekly chart, and you can see what a beautiful uptrend this is. We now have a bullish engulfing candle. This body of this candle totally engulfed by this one. And you can see that the sum of the rate of change indicator on the weekly chart is still very bullish. So I still own it. I use this on the daily. Let's take a look at the daily. You can see that it pulled back a little bit to the daily to the 4% line and went a little below it, and then it bumped off of it, and it's trending up now. So NASDAQ is looking pretty bullish too. And before we leave the S&P, here's a quick look at the seasonal chart on the S&P from Best Choice Software. And what we can see here is that the seasonal trade is in play right now. From June 27th to July 23rd, we get a 100% probability win percentage, rather average profit of 3%, and that just confirms that this is a sweet spot now. Basically a summer rally. So let's go to Shaken and take a look at some individual stocks and ETFs. The first screen we're going to look at is the sector ETFs, plus a few others that I've put on the list here because I own them. For example, TQQQ or the NASDAQ ETF, I own this one. So, and you can see that it's been almost overbought and then it started going up. It hasn't become quite oversold yet. XLK is a similar kind of thing. You know, it's down here. It was almost oversold. It's almost the same looking chart. I've been wanting to buy this ETF for a while, and I finally broke down and bought it last week. This one is amazing. This is that ARK organization that in this ETF, they own a lot of Tesla shares, but they own a lot of other startup companies, etc., and they do some damn good research. You could see how much more they've advanced from the previous high here. Okay, so I own that, and you can see the other two are XLC and XLY that are bullish. Let's take a look at another list, which is the screener alerts. This is the most recent screener alert. To save time, I simply identify the ones that are oversold. You can take a picture of this if you want or make notes. I use my cell phone now to just take a picture and email it to myself. So VIPS. Now most of these, I don't own any of these, but I'm just showing you what the list is. You see, these are oversold. You could see it here, right? Bullish relative strength is very strong, and money flow is not bad. Money flow buy. These are alerts. All these arrows here, these stocks have alerts on them. But it doesn't mean you just go out and buy it because there's an alert. You want to see if it's oversold, for example. So VIPS is one, ZTO is another that I thought was yes, it's oversold. And the other one is IDN is oversold and it's ticking up, money flow buy. And the last one is PAGS, was up 4% on Friday, but you can see it became oversold. It had a big personality change here. So this is an interesting one, although they missed the earnings by 23 cents. So I don't know, that's problematic in my mind. Let's see what the checklist looks like. Checklist looks very strong. Anyway, that's what we got on this list here. And if you want to know what I'm doing in my portfolio, this is a list of most of the stocks that I own. I have another account with a few, but here you have Adobe and Cadence Design and Dell and the Qs and ARKK, Microsoft, Nvidia, Qualcomm I bought recently, and let me show you why. Because it became oversold and started ticking up. So I just added Qualcomm, very bullish on everything, green on everything. And it's only neutral here because it's back in this neutral zone. So I bought that. I still hold on to PayPal, but PayPal is overbought now, you see. But look at the relative strength and the money flow. So there is some profit taking. I think you could see that here. Tesla, I still have Tesla. And now it's very overbought on this indicator here, the three lines. But but it's still trending up. And I did have some covered calls. And actually, I traded Tesla. I sold and bought the stock again, bought back the covered calls for a nice gain, and etc. So I still have Tesla. Twilio is another one that is now overbought, and it looks as though some profit taking is in order here because you see that big personality change from this to this, and it was oversold, and of course now it's overbought. So I set a target of 234, and right now it's sitting at 232. So it's reaching that target, and there'll be some profit taking here, I'm sure. Here's another list. It's a list of stocks that are very popular stocks. They appear on many watch lists and so on. So I made up a short list here of the ones that I think are either oversold right now or look very interesting from another point of view anyway. So Adobe is the first one. Um, if you look at Adobe, you'll see it came all the way down, even though it's really trending up nicely. You can see that the overbought oversold indicator is reaching that in the neutral zone, but reaching that oversold level here. So Adobe is one. The Qs are another. Still trending up. Okay. XLK likewise, I think, still trending up in a neutral zone. It's not overbought yet. See, Microsoft. I think that one is overbought. Microsoft is overbought, but that's one of my core holdings, so I'm not selling it. How about Nvidia? Nvidia became oversold and has been trending up since and making another move here in the neutral zone. I don't buy the oils, but if you want to know an oversold stock in the oils, it's Occidental. But you can see how the relative strength is very, very negative, right? Um, let's see. How about Apple? Apple is becoming oversold. Apple is becoming oversold, so we want to keep an eye on that if you don't own it and would like to do something with it. And how about Facebook? I owned it and then I had to sell it because it hit my sell signal, but you could see it came down and now it seemed to be finding support at the long-term average. Google near the oversold level and trending up. PayPal I still own, and that's been steady Eddie, even though it hasn't come down to oversold, but it's remained up there and doing nicely. Um, and also MasterCard. The cards are doing well again. Folks, we're running out of time, but I hope you enjoyed this, and let's keep this trend going. Hallelujah. Have a good day and a good weekend.